Now, the strategies about video are pretty interesting when we start to think about it organizationally, we start to think about it strategically. So one of the things that happens in an organization when we start looking at video as a means of communication is we start saying, well, hey, we're on social media, we get our content out, we're pretty good at that already, we don't really need any help with that. Or, we're really good at capturing content, we know what we're doing, we have plenty of followers, we have 1 million followers, we have 5 million followers. Now I think you guys, from what I recall, at least on Facebook, we're somewhere in the range of a little bit around 540,000, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah. So my point is that we get in the habit, and I was actually having this conversation about just when you're putting content up, and this conversation was pretty much like, hey, we know we're engaging, we know that we have all these followers, and so as I started having this conversation with them, and I said, look, you guys could do a lot better on video, you could be a lot more effective on video. And he said, how, Brock? We already have a ton of followers, we're already putting out a ton of original content, and it's really, it's beautiful, right? It's great content, and we all know that. But what I said to him was, let me ask you, I actually asked him a couple questions. I said, let me ask you a couple questions. I said, let's just randomly, we sat down, literally popped up the laptop, pulled up the Facebook page, and I said, let's sit down here and let's start walking through these posts. And he said, okay. So I pulled up one, and he's like, hey, this is a good one. Told me a little bit about the history on that post. And so I said, I don't care about the post. Let's go into the likes and the comments. So we went into the comments, and we started reading, and his initial reaction was focusing on the type of content that was coming from the comments, right? He was starting to read some of the comments, and, oh, that's great, or that's super helpful, or whatever. And so I was scrolling through some of the comments, and I said, let me ask you something. Where are you as an organization responding to these comments? Where are you as an organization actually engaging? And we hear this word all the time when we're talking about social media, we're talking about video, engagement, right? And we say, well, we're engaged. And we tend to think of engagement as basically it's us posting content. It's us putting content out. Wherever that's at, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, wherever you're at, YouTube, all those different places. Well, we're great at putting out content. We're great at capturing content, Brock. We do a really great job of it. And I say, okay, let me ask you, there's a few things I always want to ask when I'm working with an organization in this context, especially focusing on video. I want to ask, where are you talking to people in the comments? Where are you engaging in conversation in the comments? And many times, and this was this was like most other circumstances where I had this conversation with an executive at an organization, we quickly realized we're not having a conversation. We have a megaphone, we have a loudspeaker, and we're getting our message out there. We're saying our message very loudly, very clearly, and many times very nicely, right? It's exactly what we'd want to say, how to say it. But when I push back and I say, but how are your customers, your clients, your consumers, how are they engaging? And it's easy to start to see, I think everybody in the room can start to see where I'm going with this, is that you realize we're not actually having a conversation. It's a one-way communication. Now, in many ways, this is sort of like Mad Men era. There's a TV commercial, there's a print ad, and it's just communicating something. There's no feedback. Right? But part of transformation, part of digital transformation that's happening right now is we have to start to look at the customer different. We have to start to look at the consumer as being informed and educated in a way they've never been in history. They're better positioned to communicate to us. They're more informed. They're more educated, right? So as we start to look at our social media, for sure, as we're putting out video content and we realize, I'm not talking to these people at all. I'm shouting from my platform, and they're responding to my shouting from my platform, but I'm not listening to what they're saying. And this is always a problem when we deal with video. This is actually a problem across all the different ways that you communicate, but it's certainly a problem when we're talking about using video in an organization. So I always want to begin with, how are we engaging? What does engagement mean, right? How do we define engagement? So we're always going to start there. So we're going to move on to some other topics.